Good afternoon, everyone. I'm just allowing some time here for folks to jump over from whatever you may have been um, participating in through the Accepted Student Program prior to this session. So we will start off here in just a few moments. Still see lots of movement here in our numbers, so I'm just gonna keep a watch on it and we'll kick off here in just a moment. Okay, we are still growing, but as we wait for a few more people to join, I am going to go over a few housekeeping items before Meg and I start the presentation. We will be doing a presentation first, and then we're going to follow that with a student panel. We have 4 College of Education current students that will be joining us for a student panel this afternoon. So you will have an opportunity to interact with our students a little bit later. We also will, time permitting, do a brief question and answer at the conclusion of our presentation, but we will go right into the student panel then. So anything that is not answered during the Q&A, we can certainly address during the student panel. Meg and I will both be sticking around for the student panel. We'll both be moderating it, and we'll also be there for any questions that might be more appropriate for staff over students. So we'll make sure that your questions are answered here before the end of the day. If you do have a question at any time, though, I would encourage you to go ahead and use the Q&A function here in Zoom. We won't be monitoring that during the presentation, just as an FYI. So your question might sit there for a little bit, but we certainly will get to those during the Q&A session at the end, time permitting, or during the student panel. We'll be using the Q&A function for all of that today. So please feel free to pop your name or your question rather into the Q&A at any point, and we will get to that a little bit later. Final housekeeping note before we kick off here is that this Zoom is being recorded for any students that may not have been able to attend today. I'm also understanding from the undergraduate admission office that the Zoom link will be provided to participants at a later point, perhaps later this week or maybe next week, that you might be able to watch it again if you wanted to share with family, or if you just had additional questions and wanted to kind of review everything that was covered. So with that, we're going to go ahead and kick off. My name is Sarah Morican. I'm the Recruitment and Retention Coordinator in the College of Education. So it is my job to work with prospective high school students and get them excited not only about Penn State, but also about the College of Education, all of the great programs we have in the college. And I'm joined with my colleague, Meg, and she's going to be co-presenting with me today.
Hi, everyone. My name is Megan Schrock. I'm an academic advisor within the College of Education, one of 5 full-time advisors. So I'm looking forward to talking to you guys a little bit about the College of Ed and answering some questions you may have.
So before we kick off, we're so excited that you are joining us today. We have a lot of students joining us. I'm looking at our participant number, and we're just so excited that so many of you are here to learn a little bit more about the College of Education. And if this might be the right fit for you, maybe some of you have already hit that accept button that you're coming to Penn State. Maybe some of you are planning to do that, or maybe you're still on the fence yet. And hopefully, whatever remaining questions you have, this will help you answer that. We certainly wish we could have you here in person with us. As you can see, Meg and I are both working remotely, as we have been for just about the last year, with many other universities following suit. So we certainly wish that we could welcome you to campus, but you will have an opportunity today to also participate in a virtual tour if you haven't done so already of the campus. And we hope to be able to welcome you in the summer or fall to campus. So stay tuned to Penn State for more information forthcoming about what the future semesters might look like. But I'll put it out there, we don't have an answer yet. There have been no decisions made about what future semesters look like. So with that, let's go ahead and take a look here. When you see this number that's represented on your screen, this number is representative of the undergraduate student population at Penn State. So I'm going to say that again, undergraduate student population at the Penn State University Park campus. So we have a variety of other campus locations. We are a system that crosses the state of Pennsylvania. There are Penn State campuses all across the state. We are the largest at University Park. And this number, again, is reflective of just the undergraduate student population. So that does not include any of our graduate or doctoral students on campus as well. So we are quite a large system. But how do we function? So I'm going to break this down just briefly to give you a better understanding of how the university functions. So we function as academic units and academic colleges. So you can see here on your screen the different academic units at Penn State. And we are going to take just a brief little tour to put into context where the College of Education fits in terms of size. So our Smeal College of Business has just under 6,000 undergraduate students. College of Engineering is our largest at Penn State, and they are just under 8,000 undergraduate students. Then we have the College of Liberal Arts, right at about 5,500 undergraduate students. And before I move to the College of Education, I will mention that these came from our most recent census, which would have occurred during the fall semester, the fall 2020 semester. So these numbers, of course, fluctuate, actually even daily, believe it or not, because there are students that transition in and out of majors at Penn State at any time. And Megan can help you understand a little bit more about that when she talks about academic advising. So these numbers do fluctuate, but we took this snapshot at census, which is again, fall 2020 semester. So the College of Education, we've now completed our tour of the other academic units that we were looking at. We are about 1,400 undergraduate students in the College of Education at Penn State University Park. So we think we have the best of both worlds. We are part of an institution that is a large Research One academic institution, but you also have the benefit of being part of a small college where you're going to get individualized attention, where you're going to be able to build relationships with faculty members, even our deans, if you're so inclined to have access to the leadership in the college. You're going to be able to build a great relationship with your academic advisor, and you're going to get to know the students very well in the College of Education. So a lot of benefits to being involved in a large institution and having a small college within that larger university system. So there's that large overall number again. Back here to our undergraduate population of the College of Education. And then just to break this down even a little bit further, our incoming first year class, so that was students that joined us in the summer or fall of 2020, was just about 300 students. So think about that in context of your own graduating high school class and kind of where that fits with your own experience, and kind of think about that as you think about the College of Education. So I want to talk for a moment specifically about students that are interested in being teachers. So if you're interested in one of our other academic majors, we have two majors that don't fit into the teaching realm. So bear with me if you're interested in either our education and public policy program or our rehabilitation and human services program. We'll be talking about those a little bit further in the major presentation, but I wanted to talk about some trends in the teaching profession. And this actually, this graph, we have looked to update this graph many times. And myself and our director of academic advising, his name's Greg Mason, we have been looking for some updated data and we just cannot find anything. This comes from the Department of Education and we've not been successful in finding anything more recent. But this still really is relevant and speaks to what is happening in the teacher profession. We are in the middle of a teacher shortage. Some of you may already be aware of that. Some of you, that might be new information that we are in the middle of this teacher shortage. So at the 10,000 foot level, what this really means for you, if you're sitting in the audience thinking, I want to be a teacher, it means there's going to be a lot of job opportunities for you. How do we know this? Well, if you want to be a teacher, you have to have what's called a teaching certification. Those are handed out essentially by state departments of education. Here in Pennsylvania, we have the Pennsylvania Department of Education. And you have to register your certification essentially with each individual state. So we are able to very easily track how many active teachers we have within each state. And we also are able to get a sense of how many students are in the pipeline at teacher preparation programs, not only in the state of Pennsylvania, but across the country as well. So this phenomenon is not unique to Pennsylvania. It is a national phenomenon that is happening, this teacher shortage, and it's also affecting all grade levels as well, which is something unique. I can remember back whenever I was in high school, that was the time when people said, if you want to be an elementary teacher, you're not going to find a job because they were oversaturated with elementary teachers. That's not the case. We know that this teacher shortage that we're in right now, it is a shortage of all subject areas, all grade levels. Some of those are certainly more high need than others. Special education continues to be a very high need area. Secondary science, in particular physics. So if you have an interest in physics and think that you might want to teach physics, that definitely is a really high need area. So there certainly is fluctuation in the numbers in terms of how dire the shortage is for each area, but we are definitely experiencing that shortage. So what this means for you, again, is the job market is going to be hot whenever you are leaving Penn State, or hopefully it's going to be Penn State, but you might be looking at some other institutions as well. So whenever you're leaving a teacher preparation program, you are going to have great opportunities available to you. And we do offer a career fair that we actually do twice a year. We have gotten really good in the last year doing it virtually. We prefer to do it in person if possible. Spring is our larger career fair out of the two. Like I mentioned, we have a fall and a spring session. Most of our students are graduating in the spring though, so that is why we have a larger spring career fair. And the last one I attended, I was not able to attend the virtual one in the spring, but the last one that we had in person had over 136 school systems from across the country. So it's not just school districts from Pennsylvania that are coming to visit our students and hope that they will take a position here in Pennsylvania. It is school districts and school systems from all around the country. Even Alaska, every year you can bank on at least 2 school systems from Alaska coming for our students and hoping to hire some students. And also we have an international presence as well. There are some international schools that come to the career fair. What we always like to share with students, if these schools are coming back repeatedly, and if they're making an effort to make it from Alaska to Pennsylvania or somewhere internationally to Pennsylvania, there's a reason for that. Our students are highly sought after. They are very qualified teachers. The Penn State brand certainly serves them well, but also the quality of our program. They know that they're getting a quality teacher, so they certainly want to hire our teachers. So that was all a very long way of saying that the job market is going to be there for your students. They will be able to get jobs. They'll be very employable. So I'm going to go ahead and transition now and hand the torch to Meg, who is going to walk you through majors and minors in the College of Education. And then she's got some other slides she's going to talk about as well.
Awesome. So before we get into the majors, just like to always point out that the way we have our majors broken down do follow the certification bands that exist in Pennsylvania. So if you're ever wondering, like, program sounds very unique, it's kind of what we were trying to follow. So the first one that we've got, and probably our most popular, is elementary and early childhood education. So this is what would certify you if you want to teach the PK through 4th grade. So it does stop at 4th, because then the next major we have is what's called middle level education. So this certifies you in 4th through 8th grade. And we do realize that many of these grades kind of cover middle school, where you would have to pick a concentration area because you don't have one teacher in middle school for everything. So students pursuing this major would choose between English, math, or social studies as their concentration area. And then if you wanted to work with a little bit older, we've got secondary education as well. So this is 7th through 12th grade. So covers middle school and high school, depending on where you're from within PA. And they follow the same procedure. They have to pick a concentration area. So we've got English, math, social studies, and science education, which science does break down into a couple different focus areas within that as well. So biology, chemistry, physics, as Sarah mentioned earlier, and earth and space. So even more customization ability. So those are the ones that we have that break down based on different age ranges and grades. These next two are still teacher certification majors, but they are K through 12 certifications. So for world languages, same rules apply. You have to pick a language. Would probably be pretty hard to learn all of these. But so for world languages, you could choose French, German, Latin, or Spanish. And it is important to note that for these majors, they do require studying abroad, which will hopefully be something that is truly an option once all of you are, juniors in college. So that's important to know is spring of junior year, these students go abroad. Not sure where the Latin students go, but they go somewhere. And then last but not least is special education. This is also a K through 12 certification, but it comes with a little extra pizzazz. So for special education, we have a couple programs. We have a true standalone bachelor's degree in special education that students could pursue. But we also have these 5-year programs that allow students to become dual certified in the realm of special education. So bear with me, these two can be a little tricky. In the orange box, this is what we call our IUG program. So for these students, they earn their bachelor's degree in special education and a master's in curriculum instruction that focuses on reading specialist. So the students are dual certified in special education and reading specialist. The IUG stands for Integrated Undergraduate and Graduate Program, which means that these students start taking graduate level classes in their junior year and then senior year as well. So they are here for all 5 years because they're earning both at the same time. So when they graduate, it's all in one weekend that they earn both their bachelor's and master's degree. So that's the orange box. The blue box is for students who are interested in special education, but have another interest that's outside of the reading specialist realm. So a lot of times we'll see this with elementary and early childhood education. They'll want to pursue that as their bachelor's degree, and then they stay for a 5th year for special education. They get their master's in special ed, then they're dual certified in those 2 areas. You can add this master's +1 on with any of our undergraduate degrees that lead to teaching certification. So it's not specific to elementary ed, it's just what we see a lot because it is their biggest program. With this option, students also earn a minor in special ed. That way they kind of are getting the prerequisite coursework done while they're an undergraduate and they feel prepared for that graduate level coursework because they dive right in as soon as they're done with their bachelor's degree. So these are our only 2 dual certification programs that are 5 years and typically is probably the fastest way to kind of double major without really double majoring. So those are our 2 special ed programs. And then as Sarah mentioned, we have 2 majors that don't lead to teacher certification. So the first one is education and public policy. This major focuses on the world of education and making a difference, but just not in the classroom. So a lot of our graduates will go on to law school, they'll work with departments of education. So they want to make policy changes that affect a classroom without being in the classroom. And then for rehab and human services, this is a program that focuses on being advocates for individuals with disabilities. So it's very similar to special education, just doesn't involve the classroom work. So a lot of these students will go on to be counselors, occupational therapists, physical therapy, social work, really want to work with people and help them and be an advocate. So that those are our 2 non-teaching majors. And then the college also has a couple minors that you can see here on the list. So if there was a major that interests you, but you don't want to major in it, a lot of times we can offer you a minor in it. So education policy studies is related to education public policy. We have the rehab minor, special education minor, early development and education. So if you like working with the little kids, but really want to teach somewhere else, you can at least get a minor in it. Social justice in education and addictions and recovery are both relatively new minors within the college. So these are definitely growing in interest. Social justice and education is a really cool minor because it does provide you with opportunities to see different policies and things like that in the field. It does have some field experience. And addictions and recovery has a couple options built into it, some that can lead to a certification. So those are the minors we have, but students within Penn State are welcome to pursue minors in any college whatsoever. So if you wanted to do maybe a psychology minor or a business minor, we see a lot of history minors. If you're doing secondary social studies, things like that, you are welcome to explore other colleges for minors. But that's just what we have here. So those are all of our programs. And then related to those programs is obviously an advisor. So in these next couple slides, we're just going to talk about resources and opportunities for College of Education students. So when a student starts within the College of Education, they are assigned an advisor from the start. So that, like I mentioned, there are 5 of us, and we all kind of specialize in different areas. Each advisor works with elementary and early childhood education because it is our largest major. But after that, we kind of have our siloed areas so that we can get to know the program and the faculty really well to best advise students. Now, some majors also receive a faculty advisor in the junior year, maybe to help out with different things like internship placements or specializations, things like that. So just additional help. But students do have the same advisor from start to finish as long as they stay within that major. And if they change their major, they're just going to get a new advisor that helps them again from the start of their pursuing that major to the end. So it's really great to see students from the very beginning at new student orientation and then get to watch them walk across the stage 4 years later. And it is nice to, I think, get to meet with them at least once a semester to talk about course scheduling and maybe some minors, going abroad, student teaching, other sorts of things. So we're kind of their first point of contact for any academic related questions they have. We may not be able to answer it, but we can at least point them in the right direction. So it is really nice to start that kind of that relationship building from the first day on campus, really. So students do also have access to their advisor's calendar. So they self-schedule appointments when they need us. So there's multiple places that they can see, who their advisor is, how do they access their calendar, how do they meet with them. Right now we're just doing Zoom appointments, but we hopefully one day we'll be back in our offices so we can meet with them in person. And that's kind of how advising is structured within the College of Ed. It is different in each college, but that's how we do it here. And then one of the things we like to talk about with students is getting involved in different opportunities that the college offers. So one of those is the education first year living option. We like to call it Ed House. So this is a floor on or in one of the first year dorm buildings, I guess we could call it, that the floor is just education majors. So the RA is an education major, and it really just gives them an opportunity to get to know their classmates and get to really get involved within the college. So normally what this comes with is all of the first year students on that floor are paired with a big buddy. So someone in their major who's been through a couple semesters who can give them tips and tricks when it comes to scheduling or good recommendations. We also like to do scheduling parties with them so that they can have those big buddies come in and we just have a big, well, hopefully in the future, a big room reserved and they can just kind of pop in and out and talk about scheduling and get some help from someone who's been through it many times. We like to try to do monthly dinners and also pair that with a first year seminar. So all of the students on the floor will take a seminar together. Part of that seminar is going to dinner together. So acclimating them to the College of Education and academic life, but also making sure that, socially they're doing well and we can check in on them. And we do like to also have them visit upper level classes. That way they can, again, get to see some professors they'll have, get excited about those, true major related classes that they're really excited for. So we like to set those things up. It's just a benefit of living on that floor. And we normally have a faculty and a staff advisor who kind of monitor the floor. They teach that first year seminar, make sure everything's going okay. They work closely with the RA just to make sure everyone's having a good time and getting out of the experience what they were hoping for. Okay. All right, so something else we talk about in advising and obviously in this presentation are field experiences, both at home and abroad. So each major, even the non-teaching prep majors, have different kinds of field experiences built in within it, because we want to make sure that you're getting a foot in the door for your future. So the built-in field experiences, you'll do some daycare for PK through fourth elementary, education majors. They'll do some daycare visits, and then everyone together does school shadowing as well throughout their time in their major. And then every major that leads to teaching certification has student teaching in the senior year. So some majors can do this fall or spring. Most students and majors choose to do this in the spring of their senior year. So it's the last thing they do before they graduate. They get their foot in the door. They've got some cool experiences to talk about at that career fair that Sarah was talking about. Now, student teaching is something that the students fill out an application for. They tell us when they're ready for student teaching. And then we have a curriculum and field experience office that helps place them into a school. So we do a lot of assisting with the student teaching side. Now for EPP and RHS, so Education, Public Policy, and Rehab and Human Services, both majors require an internship, but this is an internship where students self-select where they would like to go, because we realize that students in these majors have such vast career goals and opportunities out there that we don't want to silo them into something that doesn't align with what they want. So these students choose what they want to do. For Education, Public Policy, this is normally somewhere in junior and senior year. But for Rehab and Human Services, similar to student teaching, this is the last thing they do spring of senior year or their last semester, whenever that may be, before they graduate. So again, they have a foot in the door. Now, each of the majors also have some optional field experiences that students can participate in if they'd like to. So we have things like the Philadelphia Urban Seminar, where students will spend a couple weeks in what's called our Maymester in Philadelphia, experiencing what an urban school is like, because it's not something we really have here in State College. So we give them that opportunity. It's great for students who want to eventually focus on urban teaching. So we have that. We also have the Ecuador English as a Second Language certificate. So students are welcome to go abroad for a summer in Ecuador. They take 5 classes through this program, and by participating in it, they do earn their certification in ESL. So this is something that can be added on to any teaching preparation major. It is important to note for that certificate, there is a way to earn it without going to Ecuador. It's just most students seem to prefer to do it through Ecuador because they get some, actual field experience. We have a Mexico Summer Immersion, which is somewhat tied to our Ecuador program. It doesn't lead to that ESL certificate, but it's still giving you some international experience in classrooms, and you get to, partner up. You do a homestay, you get to explore classrooms in Mexico, both university and elementary through high school wise. So that's a relatively new program. For Ireland, Cultural and Disability, students travel around Ireland for a couple weeks. They visit different facilities that relate to disability, and they also get to participate in a big national conference and meet some worldwide leaders. We have Professional Development School, which is a year-long opportunity to student teach, normally in the senior year. And then Student Teaching Abroad is an opportunity to go abroad for the last couple weeks of student teaching. You do have to stay in Pennsylvania for 12 weeks to get certified, but students could pick from one of these locations to go abroad and get some more teaching experience, just in a new location, to see how it's done in a different place. It is important to mention with all of these opportunities, it's hard right now with COVID to know what they're going to look like in the future. Again, we're hoping by the time you are all students, things can go back to normal. But right now, we're doing our best to offer these opportunities, even though you may not be able to go to these locations. So just something to keep in mind. So another way to get involved, obviously outside of the classroom, are some clubs and student organizations. Similarly to minors, students are welcome to participate in clubs and organizations that are not necessarily in the College of Education, they're just university-wide, but these are the ones we have. So we have Education Student Council. You'll meet some of those representatives later at the student panel. We also have Student Pennsylvania State Education Association, Students Together in Education Policy, Rehab and Human Services Student Org, and Futures Educator Association, Multicultural Education Student Association. So you can see that there's different groups for different interest areas, some that align with different majors, and things like that. And students are welcome to explore. What we really hope to do, again, come every fall, is we have an ice cream social where these organizations get to have tables outside. You get some free ice cream, you get to meet the deans, and you get to meet these organizations to see what you'd like to sign up for. And so students a lot of times sign up for everything, and then they start attending meetings and they decide which one aligns best with their interests, their goals, and their future. But they're all great. So it's, again, just what we have in the College of Ed. Okay, so technology, we get this question a lot. We are a BYOD college, so bring your own device. All we ask is that you have some sort of electronic device, that has video and audio abilities and can connect to the internet. Now, this was, of course, before COVID. We always asked for this too, because you're going to use the latest and greatest technology that you would experience in a classroom or an internship site. So we want to make sure you're fully prepared for them. So a laptop, a tablet, either of those really work, and they're probably the most popular option. Obviously, we want something bigger than a cell phone, and probably not a desktop, because that would be really hard to bring to class with you. So one of those two options is normally best, but we do not care if it's a Mac or a PC. Whew, okay, so what if I don't want to teach in PA? We get this question a lot in the advising office. So technically, we have reciprocity, or an interstate agreement, with 45 other states. So what it basically means is it's an option for you to go to another state to teach after graduating from Penn State, but you still might have to do a few extra things to get certified in that state. So those things could mean you have to take an additional test, or maybe do a workshop. Or if you want to go to Texas, you have to take a History of Texas course. So each state is slightly different, but we do have a lot of people in the College of Education to help you with that process. So we have a certification specialist who is here and able to help with holding on to your Penn State documents for the entirety of time, to make sure that if you maybe graduate and then 30 years down the road you want to go teach in Wisconsin, I guess that was a weird example, but you want to go teach somewhere warm and sunny, maybe not so cold like we have here in State College, we can help you with those documents even if it's been 30 years since you've graduated. We try to help you too as you're getting close to graduating, if you think you know where you want to go. But a lot of times what we do see is that students who receive job offers from school districts that are outside of Pennsylvania, they'll help the school district will help students get a conditional certification. They'll give you a layout of exactly what you need to do to get certified. So a lot of times human resources representatives from school districts are super helpful in this process too. So ultimately, you're not going to have to figure this out alone. But we do, regardless, we always recommend that you get certified in PA, because you never know what could happen. And it is easier to move certifications once you are certified in one state. And obviously PA would make the most sense if you come to Penn State. So you'll hear that from us as far as teaching elsewhere.
The one thing I'll add, Meg, is that if you look at the list on the screen, it does show the states that we don't offer reciprocity with. And that really comes from that interstate agreement that is signed every few years. It's reviewed by the states that have chosen to sign it, and the others have a chance to sign it if they wish. But I want to point out, because we are a border state to New York, and that's a question we get a lot about reciprocity with New York. So New York is not part of that interstate agreement, but if you are looking to teach in New York or one of the other states that is listed as not being part of that interstate agreement, that doesn't mean that you can't teach in one of those states. It just means they haven't signed the agreement. We have sent students to every state to teach at one point or another. Also, departments of education like to change their rules and requirements like we change our socks. That is a common joke among teachers, that those guidelines change and are so fluid. So things might even change by the time, you're looking at colleges now and looking to make a decision. By the time you are ready to be applying for certification in a state, things could look very different. We're taking a snapshot of what is available today. But what I want to point out with New York, and also we do have reciprocity with New Jersey, but New York and New Jersey are both EdTPA states. There are other states that are joining EdTPA as well. So that might be something that you're hearing. We don't have EdTPA in Pennsylvania. We are not an EdTPA state, but that doesn't mean that we can't help you navigate that. We have certainly sent many students back to New York. They have pursued EdTPA. It just takes a little additional careful planning. Where you work with your academic advisor, you're going to need to work with your professors and your field placement as well, your mentor teacher that you're student teaching with, because the EdTPA also requires a video component to it. So you need to make sure that you have the appropriate permissions to do that while you're student teaching. But the students that have pursued that at Penn State have not had a problem in getting that done. So I just want to point out that it's not part of Pennsylvania curriculum. Again, as Meg indicated earlier, we teach to Pennsylvania standards because we are governed, so to speak, by the Pennsylvania Department of Education. But I just want to clarify, because we might have some New Yorkers here on the call today, that not to worry, you will be able to go back and teach in New York. If that is your hope and your dream, you can accomplish that. And we're happy to answer questions about that. And again, as Meg mentioned, our staff in the College of Education will be there to help you navigate that, as well as the Department of Education. You can always use the Department of Education in your state that you're hoping to teach in as a resource, as well as the Human Resources Office in the school that you're trying to join. So know that there will be resources for you along the way. That actually is where we wrap up with our presentation. I'm going to do a quick time check here. We actually do have a few minutes that we can start doing some question and answer, but I do want to direct your attention to the contact information on the screen. So if you do have further questions, this is a good place to maybe take a screenshot or whatever, a photo of the contact information, so that you can get in touch with us should you have lingering questions after the presentation today. We certainly are happy to help you get your questions answered as you begin to make your decision, or maybe, like I said, maybe you've made your decision and you just have some additional questions about next steps. So please feel free to reach out to us. I'm going to leave that up for just a couple of moments so that you have an opportunity to take that information down. And while we wait for our student panelists, I see a couple have already joined us, but we're still a little early on time here. So I'm going to go ahead and look and see what's in the question and answer, and see what we can knock out that isn't something we want our students to tackle. Meg, this might be a good one for you. Is there a way to minor in either sign language or in something that would allow you to coach?
So sign language itself is not a minor, but we do have deafness and hearing studies, which could include the 2 sign language classes that we have at Penn State. So you can definitely minor in something related, and it is semi-popular with our students. As far as coaching, no real minor that kind of correlates to that. That's more of something that if you have experience in, that looks good on your resume versus classes, because it's kind of hard to teach how to coach. It's easier to figure that out in the field. So for anyone who's interested in coaching, that's normally what we see, is they get involved with, summer opportunities, or, they become a manager on a sports team here at Penn State. And that normally seems to help them much better than a minor.
Meg, I'm going to pop this one to you as well, since you are the RHS advisor.
Okay.
Jamie, I hope you're still joining us. Jamie asked a question. Jamie's interested in studying rehabilitation and human services and plans to become an occupational therapist.
Okay.
Can you talk a little bit more about what the pathway for that might look like?
Sure. So rehab and human services, probably about like 95% of students in that major are pursuing it to become occupational therapists. So it is very popular. For those students, they'll notice that the major itself is very open-ended and flexible. But once you mention to me that you want to do occupational therapy, it kind of narrows down what we're going to take, because we need to make sure you're following the requirements for occupational therapy school. So things like your sciences. Every student has to take 3 sciences to graduate from Penn State, but for students pursuing occupational therapy, those sciences are going to be anatomy, physiology, and possibly physics. That's an ever-changing requirement. So what we do together in our advising appointments is we kind of just keep you on track for the general OT requirements. And then once you get into sophomore year, really, I'm telling you to look at the schools you want to apply to, because each school is slightly different, very much like each state is slightly different in their certification requirements. So each graduate OT program has slightly different requirements, and I want to make sure we keep you on track for all of them. So we're planning for graduate school kind of that early in advance. And we're just doing everything you need to do to get admitted, to the program, or at least be able to apply to the programs you want to. So it is very popular for RHS students to be tracking OT. So you'll have a lot of classmates who are helping you out, and in the same shoes as you. There is also an occupational therapy group on campus that I always recommend you join, because this is what they do. They go through graduate school applications together. They talk to graduates who are pursuing OT programs. So it's definitely a great field. It's growing, and we'll keep you on track for it if that's your ultimate goal.
Excellent. Thank you, Meg. I apologize if you hear me typing in the background. I'm doing some answers on the back end here to some student questions. And also chatting with our panelists in the background. So I apologize for that. Let me look here and see. Do you want to talk about, here's a student who is asking about switching. She was accepted into elementary education and is interested in double majoring in special education as well.
Okay. So I will say double majoring with any 2 majors that are teacher preparation is really, really hard to do, and is not going to be something you can do in 4 years, because each teacher preparation major does require, normally the last 3 to 4 semesters, you're taking your core courses, you're doing student teaching, and student teaching needs to be focused on the area that you're trying to get certified in. So double majoring is hard. That's where that 4+1, the IUG program, that's where they come in handy. But for students who want to change their major at some point in the future, that is something your advisor can definitely help you out with. It's kind of good to know from the start that you're not 100% sold on what you applied to. That way we can keep you on track for anything and everything you want, which is hopefully possible, normally possible in your first couple semesters. So that's what I always tell students who aren't sure exactly what they want to major in. Tell your advisor at new student orientation. We'll keep you on track for everything we can. And if we want to add on something like the 4+1, that special education certification, that's not something you need to know from the start. That's something normally around junior year we're going to tack on to your academic plan. So you have plenty of time to explore other options and decide is that really something you want to do. So I hope that answered it.
While we're talking about special ed, Meg, this will be the last question we take before we switch over to the student panel. But there's some clarification about what grades special education covers, the certification.
The certification band is K through 12. So it is the major itself covers, the bachelor's degree covers K through 12. The master's degree will cover K through 12. It is important to note the minor, though, if you just earn a special education minor, that does not certify you in anything. So that's going to be just kind of a general special ed understanding.
Thank you, Meg. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen. Hopefully you all have had an opportunity to take down the information of how to contact us if you have additional questions. And I am going to begin introducing our student panel. So panelists, if you want to go ahead and get your cameras on and ready, and I will explain how our panel is going to work, and then we'll move to introductions of our student panelists. So the student panel is an opportunity for all of you in attendance to ask questions of our current students. We have 4 current students joining us today who will be able to answer a variety of questions. They don't have to be focused on education. You can ask about what the food is like on campus, what they do for fun, why they chose Penn State. It can be focused on education. It's really your opportunity to ask questions, whatever you need to be able to determine if Penn State is the right fit for you. So the way we're going to operate this is we're going to continue to use the question and answer function. Our goal here today is that we're going to try and wrap up by about 5:30 this evening. And our goal is that we can really get all of your questions answered in that time frame. And we're going to use the Q&A function again. So please make sure if you are asking questions to use the Q&A function at the bottom of your Zoom. I'm going to go ahead and turn on the cameras for my students. And Jen, you should be able to turn yours on now.
Yeah, they're all saying, like mine says host won't allow it.
Oh wait, Jen, did I make you the host and not a co-host?
Oh no.
Can you switch me back to
Yes.
It's so funny. We've been Zooming for a year now, and there's always something that still happens. I forget to unmute myself. I'm just going to promote all of our panelists to co-host so that they can each turn their cameras on. All right. All right, everybody should be, I think yours should be good to go. Sydney, can you all unmute yourselves? You all have that? Perfect. Everybody has that ability. Excellent. So in just a moment, we're going to have our student panelists introduce themselves. They're going to share their name, what they're studying, what year they are at Penn State, and where they're from, and your major, and if you have any minors. I know a few of you have quite a few minors as well. So why don't we kick off with Jen, and we'll just kind of go through the line, and then we'll begin opening it up for questions.
Hi, my name's Jen. I'm a junior. I'm studying elementary education. I have minors in, special education, theater, child development, deafness and hearing studies, early development education, and psychology. So if you have any questions about any of those, let me know. I'm from Lansdale, PA. And I also want to throw back to a question that was asked earlier, because I have a little extra insight. Whoever was asking about the ASL minor, they've just added this semester, they have ASL level 3 for the first time, which I'm currently taking, and then they're hoping next spring to add a 4th level. So that's just extra knowledge there.
Valerie, would you like to go next, please?
Sure thing. Hi, I'm Valerie. I am a freshman majoring in elementary and early childhood education. I'm also working towards a minor in social justice and education, and I am from Columbia, Maryland.
Danae?
Hello, everybody. My name is Danae. I am a junior studying early childhood education. This is my teacher background. So I'm doing my pre-service teaching. So this is all my decorations back here. I'm doing elementary ed, and I have minors in deafness and hearing studies, human development and family studies, and special education. And I'm from Williamsport, Pennsylvania. It's like an hour from State College.
And last but certainly not least, Sydney.
Hi, everyone. I'm a junior. I'm studying early childhood and elementary education. I have minors in deafness and hearing studies, early childhood development, special education, and I think there's one more that I'm forgetting. I am from Ashburn, Virginia, which is like 40 minutes outside of DC.
Thank you. All right, I'm just looking here to see, scrolling through all of the questions.
I actually saw one. There was a question about, can you major in special education and minor in social justice and education? I can tell anyone right now that you can be any major in Penn State and still minor in social justice and education. The program, it's fairly new, so we're still kind of working out the kinks, but we've kind of adapted it so that you can apply your knowledge in social justice to any career that you're looking to get in the future. So no matter what major you are, don't worry, you can definitely join that minor.
Did any of you participate in the special living option? Do any of you have friends that participated in the special living option that you could shed some light a little bit more about the student experience? Please.
Yes, so I'm actually going to apply to be the RA for the special living option. And I have friends that have also been in it as well. And basically, it is a floor of education students who they have scheduling parties. They get to meet other students within their education classes. And it's just a very good environment to be in for those who need to make or that want to be in an environment with just education majors. I probably wish that I would have joined the special living option. I ended up like realizing that all of the friends that I were making were in the same classes with me. And so it was very, very nice to have that space of the special living option floor.
Thank you for that, Sydney. Can you talk a little bit about, and this is for everyone, what clubs and organizations you are involved in?
Yeah, I can start. So we're all on the College of Education Student Council. So that's, I know like when I came on, they were talking about the clubs through the College of Ed. So we're just the student organization. We do a lot of things. This is like one of our main things is having these recruitment events. And we've recently, in the years that I've been on the council, have done a lot to, like I know they mentioned the ice cream social. We've started to do with like COVID and stuff. Some of those things were hard. Like we usually do a Donuts with the Dean event. And so last semester we were able to hold those outside and do social distance and stuff. So we're very creative recently trying to find events to have students and professors and deans and everybody still be able to have relationships, talk and mingle and things like that at different events. So I'm part of that. And I'm also part of a dance company on campus called Rev Dance Company. I am the primary Thon chair for that. So we're heavily involved in Thon as well, if you have any questions about that. And yeah, I'm on the dance team. So we, obviously this whole school year has been a little challenging, like for Thon, where we had to like make a video and do it virtually, but normally we perform at homecoming and Thon, and we have a showcase, we do a bunch of stuff. So I will say, whatever you're interested in, there is something at Penn State for that. There's a club sport, there's a group, there's something for everything. So you'll definitely be able, like I danced my whole life. I did band the first 2 years that I was here. So you can continue things, find new things. There's always something for everybody to do here at Penn State.
I can share next. Sorry, Sydney. I am, aside from being in the student council, I'm also in the Penn State Blue Band, and we're the group that does the football games and all the halftime shows you guys get to see on YouTube. And I'm also a member of the Lions Pantry Ambassadors, which is our food pantry on campus, where we stock up to help people that are facing hunger issues or can't necessarily afford the dining plans on campus. But we are there to support you through all of your needs, and we are 100% free. So if you ever find yourself in a situation needing our services, please don't hesitate to stop by. But sort of echoing what Danae said, there are hundreds and hundreds of organizations to get involved with on campus that I highly recommend at least attending one of the involvement fairs, figuring out what you're interested in and putting yourself out there. It is so worth it. And I've met some of my very best friends through these organizations.
Anyone else? Did everyone?
Again, I can go next.
Okay, I was gonna say, I'm answering questions on the back end, so I'm listening, but at the same time, I'm answering questions.
I'm involved, obviously in this Education Student Council, but I am also really involved in Hillel, which is a Jewish student organization. I'm also involved in AISH, which is another Jewish student organization. And then through Hillel, I am involved in our Thon organization called Lev. I'm actually dancing this year in Thon, and I'm very excited.
There was a question additionally about Fawn, and if you have to participate in an organization
Yeah.
to be part of Fawn.
Yes. So not necessarily, you do not have to be part of an organization to like go to Thon. There are so many different ways to be involved in Thon. There are committees which help run Thon weekend. And then there's the captains who are in charge of those committees. And then the organizations are the ones that are actually fundraising for Thon. And if you wanted to have the experience of having a Thon family, that's when you would want to join an organization.
I can also add that there are like Thon organizations that are organizations dedicated to exclusively Thon, but usually a lot of other organizations, like I'm a part of a theater group called No Refund Theater, and we have like Thon chairs that are like for our club that they fundraise for our club, but it isn't like a Thon org. So if say you have a certain group that you really want to be involved with and you also want to be involved with Thon, there's avenues to that.
Okay. There was a question about if there are any formals or semi-formals on campus.
So through fraternities and sororities, there are always formals and semi-formals. I'm also in the Honors College. I forgot to mention that. And the Shire Honors College has a semi-formal and formal every year as well.
Yeah, this is most clubs and organizations, like my dance team does as well. Obviously, COVID has put a halt at that recently, but normally, yes, they are a bunch of organizations that do that. And kind of to bounce off of what Jen said about like groups being dedicated to Thon. So there's like all these parts to it. So you can be like, you could be like my dance team, like we're strictly our dance team, but then on the side, we're also part of Thon and we represent Rev at Thon. And then you can be like Jen said, there's groups that are like my friends are in one called A7. And then there's, I can't think of any others. There's multiple groups that are, yeah, strictly like they are all about Thon year round. They do different events, fundraise, but they're not like the only thing that really brings them together is Thon. They're not a club sport that just does Thon on the side. And then you also can be part of, so those are the organizations. And then you can be part of committees where I forget, there's like 13 or 14, like there's the finance committee, there's the fundraising committee, there's the state, like the donor and alumni relations, like there's all the different committees that work around Thon weekend. So on Thon weekend, there's like everyone in different colored shirts. So like rules and regulation, you can be on that org, it's strictly where you are security, you are guiding people, telling people where to go. And then there's like a cleanup committee and like all that stuff. So you can kind of do all sides of Thon. You can be in the audience and be doing that, or you can be on the logistics side and like the planning side of it. You can be part of groups. There's a million different ways you can be involved in Thon, and through multiple ways too. Lots of people are on committees and on organization, like they fundraise through an organization, and they're also on committees that like plan Thon weekend and roll out Thon weekend when it comes.
Thank you. I'm gonna see we answered that one live. Did any of you attend summer session?
I did not, but I know that everybody that I've talked to that has done it has always loved it. They found it very beneficial. They got to learn the campus, like everything about the campus. Like my roommate did it 3 years ago and she still like, those are some of her closest friends. So I've heard nothing but good things about it. I don't know if the question was specific about one part of it or just about it in general, but.
Meg, do you want to talk about LEAP, please?
Yeah, sure. So there are two ways that students can participate in summer. So either students just start in the summer and they pick classes they want to take on their own with the help of an advisor, of course, and kind of do their own thing in the summer. And then there is what's called the LEAP program. So this opportunity gives students just another way, another avenue to, do some community building at Penn State very early on. So LEAP students take 2 classes in the summer with the same cohort of people they're living on the floor with. So they live together and they have kind of what's called a leap pride. I'm pretty sure that's still what it's called. So they have a leap pride, and it's a nice little family. So they take the classes together, they live together, they explore campus together. They have a mentor that shows them around. So it's a really great opportunity. The students take classes in the second half of summer, so the last 6 weeks. And for anyone who's interested in summer session, that's definitely my number one recommendation of how to do summer is through LEAP, just because it's really nice to meet some people and get to explore with friends.
Thank you for explaining that, Meg. Here was a great question. What do you wish you knew or wish you did as a freshman in the College of Education?
I'm going to go first. Probably honestly live in the special living option. I was so like I wanted to meet so many new people when I came in, and that's the special living option. I was like, I'm not going to be able to meet anybody. But when you're in your dorm, you want to make sure that you're with people that are also have like the same core values as you. And for a lot of us in the College of Education, that is work comes first a lot of the time. So I think I definitely would have wanted to be with some of those people who have the same values and morals as I do.
I think I would have wanted to take advantage of a lot more of the opportunities within like the College of Education specifically. Like I didn't apply to be on the student council until I was a sophomore, just because like I didn't really look into it when I was a freshman or know about those sort of opportunities. I was in the Schreier Honors College special living option, so most of my friend group came from there, and so I didn't reach out to a lot of people within like my education classes. But then like sophomore year, when I applied to the student council and I got to know people within my education classes better, I wish I'd done it sooner. So that's my advice.
Harder for me to say what I wish I had done since I'm still in that first year. But something I'm really glad I did do was making a point to go visit the Chambers building. As an education major, we're in a really tight-knit community, and a lot of the people that are going to be in your classes, you're going to find hanging around, studying in the Chambers building. I know I see people that are in council, are in my classes, are in Blue Band all the time in that building. So I think making a point to leave your dorm room or leave the hub where you might be eating and working and visiting buildings specific to the College of Education is a really good way to put yourself out there and meet people and find yourself more a part of the community.
One thing, it's regardless of where you go, it's one thing, it sounds kind of cliche, but just always, I know it's hard now because of COVID. I feel like every situation, it's always like, well, with COVID, it's different, but being able to just like meet people in your classes and saying yes, they always say that's a big thing. Like, I just know it's so crazy when I say to people, like I could be walking down the road and I could say, oh, like that person was in my freshman year psychology class. Like it is such a big community here, but it's also so small and tight knit, and you will meet, it's so crazy, people that you know through other friends, and then through different groups and different organizations. It's amazing the people you'll meet and then the connections you make through all those people. So just putting yourself out there, everybody is in the same position when it comes to being a freshman, being in the dorms. Everyone's new, everyone is in the same exact position you're in, and they're probably feeling the same exact way you are. I remember being so nervous to like talk to neighbors on my floor or like anything, but they're feeling the same exact way. So just putting yourself out there and meeting new people and just saying hi. Sometimes you may never see that person again, but talking to them and making that connection and having that face-to-face sometimes can be so worth it in the end.
Excellent. Does anybody want to talk about when and how you build or choose a minor?
I've looked at many of them, so I can go with this one. So there's a website called bulletins.psu.edu. That's my best friend. It has lists of basically every minor that's offered on this campus, any campus for Penn State. So I've spent many times I've just scrolled through it to see. But then there's also information for like if you're looking for like education specific minors, like special education, those ones, they're on the College of Education websites and stuff like that. But that website is very helpful. Of you can see like what courses are required, and it's always very helpful to look at them side by side with what you're doing, because like some minors you can make it work, of like special education and deafness and hearing studies. If you make it work right, you can get ones to count for multiple minors. So, and also your advisors are your best friends. Advisors are amazing. They're so great. I love my advisor. She's so helpful anytime I have any question about minors, because I have changed what I'm doing so many times. And she's always so helpful in, oh, this will count for that, or oh, you already got this over here. I'm like, I didn't even notice that. Thank you so much. So yeah, looking at the website, just scrolling through, and talk to your advisor about it. They'll be so helpful.
Yeah, definitely just like kind of thinking ahead. I have 3 minors, and I think I kind of got into all of them and started them like my sophomore year. And like Jen said, a lot of them overlap. Like I know 2 of my minors, I don't think I'm taking any extra classes. They just, a lot of minors you can choose, they'll just say you need to take 2 400 level HCFS classes. So you get to choose and specify like which of those classes. So sometimes they can overlap, or they also can overlap with your major as well. I know some of just because mine are all related to my major, they can relate, but some people can do, like Jen said, she's doing like theater on top of early childhood. I don't think many of the classes would overlap, but it's still possible. So definitely thinking about it early. Don't wait till senior year and be like, oh, I kind of want to do this minor, especially with teacher prep programs, because you'll be doing a lot of in the classroom and won't be on campus a lot. However, as long as you plan ahead, you'll definitely, like Jen said, again, with advisors, they can help you, and you can definitely plan it all out. And you can do, again, Jen is a good example of multiple minors of multiple different kinds. You don't have to just worry about doing one. You can do not as many as you want, but you can work it out. You can do quite a few.
All right, let me see what else we have here. That would be got lots of questions here. This is a good one about housing. What is the process like for choosing housing? And when will we know which building we will be living in?
I can talk about that a little bit. So we have this website called eLiving, which I'm sure you'll hear about sooner or later in communications from the university, now that you've been accepted. And what will happen is you'll go into the website and you'll get like a housing contract that you have to fill out that says, yes, I will live on campus and follow these rules and whatnot. But then you will get like a drop down menu that lets you pick different housing. We have 5 different housings for campus, north, south, east, west, and Pollock. Typically a lot of freshmen live in east, but you certainly don't have to if you don't want to. I know that I lived in north, so it's certainly an option, and you will pick whatever housing you want. Housings come with different types of rooms. So there are double rooms where you live with one other person. Sometimes in north there are suite style rooms where you can have your own bedroom, but you're sharing a common area with one other person. And some are renovated, some are unrenovated, some have air conditioning, some don't. So when you're looking at housing, I highly recommend actually Googling the building that you are interested in and reading all about it, and maybe looking at some reviews or some YouTube videos of other students who have done dorm tours or something like that to kind of get an idea of what you like and what you don't like. And then once you've selected your housing, you probably won't find out until at least August if you are joining for the regular session in the fall, where you are actually going to end up living. But let's say, so I requested north. So when I was looking for a roommate, before I knew where I was actually living, I was reaching out on Facebook to people who were also looking to live in north. But I didn't find out until at least mid-August that I was actually going to be living there. So it's a little bit stressful when you get closer to school and you're like, where am I living? Oh no. But I promise you'll find out. The university will take care of you. And just make sure you do your research and know what you like.
Anyone else want to chime in on that before we move to the next question?
Yeah, I
No?
would just say,
Go ahead, Danae.
I was just gonna go like off of like Valerie said, I remember there's a YouTube video somebody made that goes through, like they walk in the actual building. I don't know if it was an RA or something, but they walk into the buildings. But definitely do some research. Like I lived in unrenovated, they're still unrenovated, not super nice. And then I know like East, the most common, that's all freshmen. Those are almost all renovated. So they're definitely two different experiences. Location wise too, I loved where I lived because I was so close to downtown rather than like East is pretty far away. So it just kind of depends on what you're looking for. So definitely, yeah, just do some research. Ask people. I get texts all the time from people that I went to high school with asking like, oh, what is this specific dorm like? Or what do the rooms look like? So definitely you can reach out to anybody you know that goes here. And they probably have a sense of what every dorm is like.
I just scrolled past the question I wanted to ask next. Here we go. What does student life look like as an early education major throughout the 4 years?
So I think we can all answer this because we're all early childhood education majors. But student life is whatever you want to make it. I'm sure we each have our own individual Penn State story, but like Danae and I have had classes together for the past 3 years. I'm pretty sure Jen and I have had a class somewhere in there as well. And it's really just about making it your own and making it unique to yourself and what you want to make it. That was also repetitive. I'm so sorry, but it's true.
Anybody else want to chime in?
I guess I could just say I think it really depends on who you are as a person, what you're interested in. Like I knew coming into it, I was like, I want to be involved in theater. So that was like my primary focus. I know some people who are all about the College of Ed and stuff, and obviously I am still too. But you know, they're more focused on a bunch of different clubs relating to education. Or maybe you want to join a fraternity or sorority, or you really want to do thon. It really depends on what you're interested in. You can sort of take it any direction you want.
Just to kind of expand on like getting involved, I mean, the university made it possible to get involved with things even during COVID. So hopefully when in your future education career we are not in COVID, I have to promise you that it'll be so much easier than it was even this year. There is no limit to how you can get involved. You can talk to advisors to help you get involved. You can talk to your friends. You can talk to your professors. But it really is just all about putting yourself out there and just saying, hey, I want to do this, and making sure that you make an effort to get in. But it's just so easy to find yourself in whatever you want to be in.
The next question is, can you talk about the ratio of males to females? You all are in the trenches in the classroom, so I feel like you are well equipped to answer this question and what you see in the classroom.
In my early childhood classes, specifically early childhood, I can only think of 2 or 3 males to the females. Education as a whole, it's probably a little bit more. A lot of the males go into secondary education, specifically history or science. But for elementary education, it's definitely a lower ratio.
So I will tack on to that as the recruiter in the college that we certainly are interested in having more male students, in particular in pre-K 4. Our education program, like many education programs across the country, kind of mirrors what you see in a traditional school setting, which is largely female at the pre-K 4 level. And then you start to see more males in the upper level, the middle school and the high school, the secondary programs. It's definitely not for lack of trying. My own personal opinion is that it is a cultural shift that we have ingrained in our mind that women are teachers. So that's my own personal opinion, but I think there is some truth to that. So it's certainly something we're very interested in and something that we are aware of and are focused on in trying to shift that. But until that cultural shift happens, I think it's going to be a hurdle. In the last few years, though, we definitely have seen some more males applying to our pre-K4 program, and that's something that we're really excited about. But we do definitely lean a little more heavily female at this point.
There was a question that I saw that I wanted to talk about.
Go for it.
About studying abroad and student teaching or teaching abroad programs. So I linked to another question that was, what stands out to you of Penn State over other schools? So it goes together for my answer. So I think Penn State stands out, and I picked that over other schools because of all of the opportunities that Penn State offered that I didn't see at other schools. So there's multiple programs. I don't know the exact amount, but you can go to Ecuador and get your the teaching. I can't think of the word right now.
ESL.
Yes, ESL. That's what I was like. I can't. So you can go abroad to do that. I know you can do student teaching abroad. There's a specific number of weeks you have to do, I think, here versus there, but you can do most of it abroad. I know people who do that, or just study abroad in general, a random semester beforehand, just take classes over there. There's also some other programs. There is the DC Social Justice Program. I myself did the Philadelphia Urban Seminar, which is my favorite thing ever to talk about. It was like the Maymester from my freshman year into sophomore year. So we went to Philadelphia for 2 weeks, and we were in the classroom for 2 weeks straight in inner city Philadelphia. It was an amazing, life-changing experience. Penn State that's what, to me, is what stuck out. So we do offer a lot of programs, and it got me into the classroom early on. Like I have truly been in classroom settings now. This is my third year. Every single year I have found a way in the classroom. And that's one thing that other schools weren't promising me, and I felt was very important. And again, a wide variety. I grew up really close to State College. So a school in inner city Philadelphia was something I had never experienced. So to have that experience under my belt was very important to me, and it changed my life. So there's so many programs and opportunities here through the College of Ed and through classes in general that you guys really need to take advantage of. They're there for a reason. And I've never heard a bad story. Everybody that I know that goes on any abroad trip or just any teaching opportunity, they have loved it. So.
There's a lot of questions here, which is great. So I'm just scrolling through. Do any of you play club sports or know anybody that does, that you could shed a little light on club sports?
My freshman roommate, she played club water polo. She still does. And she was on club swim. So I think almost all sports have we have like Penn State swim, and then there's club swim. So most sports have a club part of it, and they are recognized through Penn State. So I know that they still travel, like for club water polo. She was a couple weekends, she was at Pitt, and then she was all over the place. So club sports play other club sports. So you still can travel, you still do different things like that. But I know she loved it, and it was very similar, just obviously not as student athlete intense kind of. And so that was one thing that she really enjoyed about it, was that she still got to keep her passion of swimming in college, just not at that higher level. And I think I know Valerie is in the blue band, and I did the athletic pep band. So that, to me, that was like the club level of band, because I didn't have the time and the commitment to be in the blue band, but I could commit an hour and a half to practice a week and different sporting events. So we performed at volleyball and basketball. So there's different levels for all any type of sport or group that you want to do on campus.
Have any of you done any let me start this again. Have any of you done any study abroad or teaching abroad programs? If so, what was your experience with that? Also, are any of you considering teaching abroad for your student teaching?
I can answer this. I was highly considering it, even applied for it. Um, I feel like every answer is because of COVID, but um, our fall semester was canceled from what I had heard to go to student teach. So I was not able to, but it was something that, as Danae said, that Penn State offered that really sold me on picking this school.
Okay.
I saw a question about student teaching. If you want me to, I'm just starting into that, so I feel like I have some.
Is that the question about where do you typically go to student teach?
Where, yes. So I know Megan would know more about this, but I am early, like for early ed, I know that is a pretty local thing. My school that I'm in, it's virtual. I'm virtual. They're in person, but it's about 20 minutes. I'm at Bald Eagle School District. So I know lots of my friends are really close. Yeah, that's in Bellefonte, and then some are in State College School District. I do know for secondary math, they go to Pittsburgh. But I think I know people that go a little bit closer to Altoona and stuff, but as far as I know, it's pretty local to the area, and sometimes major specific. But I have been loving it so far, so it's been great. We're definitely in a odd era to be student teaching, but I just keep having this idea that it's worth, like, if this is gonna be the new normal, we're being trained in the middle of it all. So it's a good experience for all of us to be having right now. So try to keep that positivity into it. But for now it is virtual, but I know like times are changing. So hopefully by the time you guys get up there, it'll be different.
Like, do you have anything to add to student teaching?
Yeah. So it very much like Danae said, it can be major specific. So some majors are more easily able to stay in the State College area just because it's a smaller major. Elementary ed, with it being the biggest, it is a bigger radius of where you could go in the Center County region. But we also have placements in the Philadelphia area, the Pittsburgh area, and South Dakota. So students could choose any of those, and that's where that student teaching application I mentioned comes into play, because we want to know where you'd like to go. I will say for Philly and Pittsburgh, we have very specific contracts with specific schools. So I know some people like to try to choose those locations so that they can go back to the school that they once attended. And that may not be possible because there are other schools that need to have student teaching placements. And so we do need to abide by those contracts we have. But we have some unique opportunities, like South Dakota is pretty cool. It's a boarding school. So they're always changing and growing. So yeah, who knows what it'll be like in the 4 years while you all are students here, hopefully.
I saw a question about what class or what buildings are used for education classes. I think Megan and I could definitely talk about that, but I would love to hear the student input on where your classes happen when we're on campus. Right now, we're remote.
I can talk a little bit. Even though it has been COVID, I was fortunate enough to have a few classes on campus. I had two education classes that were in person, one of them being my education theory and policy class, and one of them being my first year seminar, which all of you will take in your first semester, I believe. My education theory and policy class was in our Chambers building, which is basically the central College of Education building. It's where we also have our Krause Innovation Studio, but it is definitely a College of Education building. It's in the northern part of campus. So that class was there. And then my first year seminar was actually on the entirely opposite end of campus in a health and human development building, which is more of a open to any sort of classes building. So I wouldn't necessarily say in particular you should expect your classes to all be in one building versus another. But a lot of the College of Education classes I know take places in the College of Education buildings. General education requirements, though, can be a variety of different places across campus.
I see a couple questions about classes, so we can kind of like go into that. Yeah, for College of Ed, we are housed like at the Chambers building, and there's a few buildings around, but you could have classes anywhere, especially freshman and sophomore year when you're taking other general courses. Those probably won't be in College of Ed buildings. They could be, but they most likely won't be. But when it comes to classes, there were some questions about like what it looks like for any major really, but at least in my experience is elementary ed. That's another big thing I loved about Penn State was that I have taken 2 to 3 education focused classes every single semester since freshman year. So pretty much everyone's classes are the same. Like that's when I met Sydney freshman year. We had like 3 to 4 class, like every semester we've had classes together, and you'll get to know all these people because you have to take major specific classes early on. So because you have to finish most of those out. And then once like junior year hits now, I'm into the blocks and all these other specific things you'll have to do. And then you go into your pre-service and then your student teaching. So you are in College of Ed classes early on, and I loved that. And so it was like I made my schedule, so it was like 2 to 3 education courses, and then usually like 2 of my like general courses that I need to get done to balance it out, so I could have my fun education, like this is what I want to do, and have a little bit of that. I didn't want all the like general ed courses at the same time. So you can definitely make your schedule like how you want it to be. But there are like, I still have the whole guide that says like a model, like you could literally just follow the model. There's 5 check marks for the first semester and then your second semester, and then you can keep going. You can move it around. I'm doing like most students do all their classes, and then like in the spring of their senior year, they student teach and then they graduate, where I flip-flopped it. So I did it early. So I'm in pre-service right now. So the fall of my senior year, I'll student teach, and then I'll have another semester to take some courses to finish up, and then I'll graduate. So you can move things around, again, working with your best friend, your advisor. They help you and know how to make it all perfect for you. But you get a variety of classes, and you get to choose when it comes to, for College of Ed, at least for elementary ed, if it's like a science course, you get a list of 25 to 50 classes, and you get to specify which ones. So like I've taken some on like the environment because I'm super passionate about that. Whereas if you wanted to take a biology course, you could do that too. So you can specify. I think that was another question about, you can pick and choose kind of if you have a special interest in wanting to, like for certain things, you can choose a route that you want to take because it's underneath the column for that class.
So going off of what Danae said about picking some of the general education classes, a lot of the general education classes for the requirements are actually sometimes education classes as a whole. Like I took a science for educators class, and it was how to teach with the outdoors, and that covered my education credit or my science credit. So there's a lot of different ways you can look to use some of those general education classroom or classes within your own classroom.
I saw a question, sort of a segue off of classes, is if there were any classes that I found like unexpected or that I didn't really anticipate. Not particularly. It's a lot of general ed requirements, at least for your first 2 years at Penn State. And that's very typical to like what you would do in high school, where you take science classes, you take history classes, you have to do an arts credit, some sort of physical, like gym sort of credit, and then you get a couple of electives thrown in there, here and there. And then after usually the end of your sophomore year, you're in more of your major, so you're taking classes that then you would definitely expect to take. So like as a elementary education major, I'm going to be taking like how to teach reading, how to teach math, but I don't really think anything was really out of left field. And as Danae said, you pick what classes, you sort of get an idea of picking what classes you want for your general ed requirements. Like my math class I had to take, that I'm actually taking this semester, is like math for elementary students. So it's math that's built towards what kind of math the people I'm going to be teaching would be learning. So there's really nothing that is totally out of left field. They're not going to put you in an engineering class as an education major. So I wouldn't expect anything too bizarre in that regard.
However, there are classes that, because we are such a big university, they are so specific. So for like a history class, you could take the history of the Beatles, which also counts as a music class. There's a chocolate class that you go to Hershey for a field trip and you learn about the like science of making chocolate and the story behind that. So I think because we are such a big university, we have such a diverse class list, but you get to pick which classes you take, which is the best part of it.
There was a question out here specific to sororities and fraternities. If you know of any that are centered around education or ones that maybe have a lot of education majors.
I can go for this. I do not know about one for the College of Education. I know that there is a psychology one that's like more of a business fraternity, but not that I know of that there's like a centered education sorority or fraternity. And I'm not sure if there is one that's dominantly education majors.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know of any either. I know that we are like a smaller college. So with our clubs and organizations, like the student council that we're all on, there's 51 or 52 members. So there's a big group of us. So I know like, when I think of it in that way, I'm not personally involved in Greek life, but sometimes that can be like that type of work. Like for me with my dance org, like I have my like College of Ed friends, and you can obviously cross your friends over, but like having that kind of like world, like your sorority and all those friends in there, you're in the fraternity, like that's its own. And I know like College of Ed, I think we keep those kind of groups with our clubs, as far as I know, but there's no reason why you can't have a bunch of different groups. So if you want to be involved in Greek life, definitely go there. And I'm sure they're so big, I'm sure you'll find and know people that are also in the College of Ed. If you join a sorority or fraternity, there definitely has to be crossovers, I'm sure, with majors and just the College of Ed in general. You should be able to find people that have similar groups again, or like you could also be in the same thon org or something. So that kind of stuff can overlap.
So in the interest of time, we are going to go ahead and conclude. We also did make it through all of the questions. Thank you so much for asking so many fantastic questions. Our panelists are adding their email in the chat function. So if you do have additional questions specific to the student representatives, please feel free to reach out to them. Again, they are a great resource. They are living and breathing this experience every day. So please take advantage of that. And we want to just take the opportunity to thank you for attending the session today. I hope it was informative to you. I think it was, especially from the student perspective. You guys asked some fantastic questions, and our panelists did a great job of representing not only Penn State, but the College of Education and all that you can do at Penn State. So again, thank you for your time. Best of luck to you as you wrap up your senior year. And we certainly hope to see you at Penn State either in the summer or the fall. Of course, if you choose another institution, we certainly wish you all the best of luck in your future endeavors. Thank you again for your time today. Stay well, be safe. Bye, everyone. It won't let me end it. Oh, there we go. Maybe.